Excuse me, husband. I had some really bad Taco Bell yesterday, and I seem to have a pain in my stomach. Can you help me with that?
Come here, woman. Come over to my table and let us take a look. Let us try this first. Might hurt a bit.
Oh, ow, oh, oh, owie! Oh, 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 oh. That feels a little bit better, but it still hurts.
Where is my 5-gallon bucket of olive oil? I think you need a good enema. While I am looking for that, you might as well listen to Our Different Take, episode 24.
Hello there, and welcome everyone to Our Different Take. My name is Brian, proud father of two awesome boys, Jedi podcaster. This is the way. And to my left is Matt. Welcome back, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody, my name is Matt. I am a huge fan of all things conspiracy, haunting, paranormal, supernatural. It all interests me, and I think it's all very riveting. And to my right is Scott. Welcome, Scott.
Greetings from the Republic of Texas. I am Scott. I'm very interested in pretty much anything that other people think is weird. Love reading conspiracy theories and playing them out. Interested in the paranormal, the spiritual, just about anything else that everybody else thinks really you shouldn't pay attention to. I like to pay attention to. Excited for tonight's show about cults. The cults of personality.
I never liked that song, by the way.
How could you not like that
really?
song? It was a great
It's a
song.
good song. Yeah, that's a really good song, Brian.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Sorry, we just voted and you're wrong.
2-1.
Oh, sorry. I've been proven wrong.
Try not to suck anymore.
I'll try not to. Well, just a quick reminder for everyone that we have a couple new segments on the show. We have a segment where we promote a fellow podcast, and we do a new one every week. And then we do some outtakes at the end of the podcast also. So don't forget to listen when you think the podcast is over. It's really not. There's some more stuff at the end for you. When you do hear the promo for our podcast that we're promoting that week, please support them because they're awesome. So check out their podcast as well. Also call our voicemail hotline 970-343-4594 if you have questions or comments. And we also want to wish everyone a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
We know this last year was a tough year for everyone, and we want to thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast. Maybe help you cope, maybe bring a smile to your face, but it's been a crazy year for us as well.
Yep.
For sure. We had an email from a listener, Claire, and her question was, what do you think is the oddest cult you've ever heard of? Well, we want to thank you, Claire, for the email. And this is what kind of spawned our subject this week. So let's just dive in and see if we can answer Claire's question. Now, some of the subjects we're going to talk about here are not for the faint of heart. Listener discretion is advised because there's some weird stuff that we're going to talk about.
Super weird stuff.
Yeah.
Seriously.
To say the least.
Well, if you guys could define a cult, how would you define a cult? First of all, Matt.
I would guess my definition of a cult, just personally, and I would guess it involves usually one leader who demands things from his followers that wouldn't normally be demanded. He kind of takes over as their leader and sort of God. In a lot of ways, he makes decisions for the group He demands, in a lot of situations, sexual favors, and is very authoritarian. A lot of times it leads to, like in a lot of the cults that I read about of late, the death of everyone involved. And in some cases, he can ask his followers to murder people or do these crazy things. And there's always, uh, they, they tend to rip people away from their loved ones and isolate them and brainwash them
What about
over
you,
time.
Scott? Anything different?
I
I
would
guess
I would
that's it.
say almost everything that Matt said, and I would say one more thing that comes to my mind when I'm thinking of cults is they tend to economically exploit their followers. I don't think you said that, did you, Matt? Yeah. So a lot of times they tend
No,
to
I did
demand
not.
contributions that are above and beyond what somebody would want to contribute normally. Sell your house and contribute the proceeds to the greater good. Sell your personal property, drain your bank accounts, and put it into the collective. And then, of course, the collective is really the uh, dictator that sits at the top, the authoritarian, who has made himself into a god figure or herself into a godlike figure. Um, so yeah, some kind of a economic exploitation. But yeah, pretty much everything that Matt said is what comes to mind when I think of cults as well.
And I think when we say that, it's a very
Sure,
general thing. Not all
sure.
cults
We're
work
just
that way, but
thinking
I would say
what
the
we think
majority of
of
them
when
do.
we think of cult. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
everything's going to be slightly different.
No, you guys are right on. You're pretty much right on track. The definition of a cult, according to the dictionary, is a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. And some of the signs of a cult, you guys were right on. A charismatic leader. They usually have some kind of process of indoctrination or brainwashing. Again, economic or sexual exploitation. You guys said that. Unreasonable fear about the outside world. The leader is always right, never wrong, and the followers feel they can never be good enough. And the leader is the exclusive means of knowing the truth.
Hmm.
So those are some telltale signs of a cult. So you guys are pretty much
Yeah.
right on. So now that we've defined what a cult is, we have 3 different cults we'll talk about tonight. The first one I'd never heard of in my life, and it's called the Ant Hill Kids.
Mm-mm.
Strange name, right?
It
The Ant Hill Kids.
it sounds harmless enough.
It sounds harmless enough. They're not the Red Ant Hill Kids or the, Sugar Ant Hill Kids. They're just the Ant Hill Kids.
Sounds like something you hear on Saturday morning cartoons.
It's true. That's true. Thank God we
Right.
we
I agree.
don't. After you hear this, the name came from their super hard work. So the Ant Hill Kids, they were a really good work ethic. They work hard, just like ants do. So that's where the Ant Hill Kids came from. But this group was formed in the 1970s by this guy named Rock Thero. Hopefully, I'm not butchering that. ROCHTHERIAULT. Right? Is that okay? I'm just going to say
Yes,
Huh.
that's correct.
Rock for the
Okay.
first name. Okay. So this guy, right?
Not to be
This is
confused with
maybe I'll say
The
Roche.
Rock.
ROCH.
careful.
Roche. So this guy, he dropped out of school and began to study the Old Testament. He was sure, like he dove right in, and he was sure that a war between evil and good was about to happen. So he converted to the Seventh-day Adventist Church and really dug into their rules. No tobacco, no unhealthy foods, no alcohol, no drugs. So we fit right in with the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Hmm. which the town that I live in is a big Seventh-day Adventist town.
Really?
Nice people, super nice, very healthy people. Yeah, there's a, well, without saying where I live,
Interesting.
it's a big Seventh-day Adventist town.
Interesting.
And
No,
they're
he just
not
happened
like
to join
this
their church first.
guy.
And he was saying, no tobacco,
Yeah.
really eating healthy, no alcohol, no drugs. Vegans.
A lot of them are vegans. Yeah. It's like on
What's that
4th of
smell like?
July, you smell like tofu
How do you
grilling
grill
and stuff.
tofu?
Really?
No, I was just kidding.
Oh my
I was just kidding about that. You don't smell tofu grilling, but yeah.
I know. I'm like, well, okay.
I was
Maybe a
like, what
tofu
the hell?
steak.
Oh, dude.
But you don't smell a lot of barbecues in this town on 4th
Interesting.
of July. I will say that. That is the truth.
All right.
A lot of
This
a lot of
guy,
vegans.
he was super charismatic, and he was always good at getting others to follow him, to do his bidding. Kind of on, yeah.
Like on eBay?
Yes.
To do his
Yeah, he would
bidding.
get people to bid on his stuff on eBay.
I don't know why that was so funny.
Oh, man.
Uh,
All right. That was awesome.
Sorry.
That was great. That was great.
He he was good at organizing seminars. So the Seventh-day Adventist had him organize all their seminars. That's where he found his skill, and he convinced a bunch of people to quit their jobs and form his religious cult called the Anthill Kids. So in 1977, the Adventists kicked him out for all his weird behavior. So he's no longer part of the Seventh-day Adventist. Right?
They think he's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good to hear that they kicked him out.
He
though.
changed his name to Moses
that's
in
helpful.
1977. Right.
It's another danger
So
sign
then
right there.
he forbade his followers to contact their families, and he started drinking, like really bad. He became an alcoholic. The rules he set for his group began to get stricter and stricter, and eventually all the members weren't allowed to talk to each other without him present. So they couldn't even talk to each other unless he was standing there. He began to spy on his followers, and if someone did not, seem devoted enough for him, he would punish them. Now, I don't know what he used as a measuring stick to see how devoted they were. I really couldn't find any information on that. But if a person wanted to leave the group, he would hit them with belts, hammers. He would suspend them from the ceiling and pluck every hair out of their body individually or defecate on them. So,
What
in the ever-loving hell?
In some areas of the country, that's considered a really good time.
Here it was not.
Maybe not for his people.
I guess it depends on what you're wearing when it happens.
A ball gag.
I guess so. So this guy thought the world would end in 1979.
That's horrible.
So he picked up everyone in his commune and drove them to the Canadian wilderness, somewhere in Canada. So 1979 came and went. As everyone knows, we're still here on Earth. God did not come back.
I mean, to be fair, though, Carter was the president in 1979, so I could see where he would say that.
But it didn't end.
The world's coming to an end.
And he blamed it on time zones. He explained it away, saying that our world and God's world run on different time zones. Blame it on
I'm gonna have to
time
remember
zones
that for when I
are
start
key.
my cult.
So they ran away to the Canadian wilderness, and pretty much every woman that was part of the commune had to marry him. And these concubines, or his wife, whatever you want to call them, they bore him 26 children. He had 26 children. Yeah, and he did sexually abuse his children, and some were taken away multiple times from the welfare authorities.
Okay, wait a minute. So the fact that he had children taken away by the welfare authorities meant that the welfare authorities had contact with this guy, knew where he was, and
That's what that would seem.
ostensibly what he's doing. Doesn't
I
that
guess their
make
Canadian Mounties rode in on their mooses, and is that plural?
on their mooses? Okay, if you're in Canada and you're a Canadian Mountie and you ride a
You ride a
moose,
moose?
call us at 97.
Ride a moose, do the shiny dangle.
I don't know. I've never in
Uh,
Hey rookie, watch me pull a
man.
rabbit out of my head.
We only have one listener in Canada, so we're not offending anyone. Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
Wait a minute. We're offending that one listener.
Sorry about
If you are our one Canadian listener, we apologize.
All right, anyway. So so this guy continued to torture those kids. And eventually he thought, well, I guess our commune needs a doctor, so I'm going to become a surgeon. It gets worse from here, seriously. So if you're squeamish from
dear
here,
Lord, no.
fast forward a few minutes.
Oh my God.
So the patients, if they were sick or whatever, the patients would be held down, fully conscious. They would be operated on with what was available for a tool. Pliers, blowtorch, any other type of utensils he could find. Yeah.
A
Blowtorch.
blowtorch?
Well, yeah, a blowtorch.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. Everything else doesn't.
Cauterize a wound, I guess, right? What the? How?
It is. Well,
in the
most
ever-loving hell.
followers
What?
either lost
That's
their
so
limbs,
wrong.
they lost teeth, they lost fingers, they lost toes to his role of surgeon.
Wow.
Now,
so you're a part of this, and you see this happening, and little Timmy just lost his teeth, and Susie lost her limbs, and Jimmy lost his fingers, and you're next. And are you gonna willingly participate still?
Well, that's where the brainwashing comes in, because you think this guy is the Messiah, and whatever he does must be right.
Mm-hmm.
So God wants you to have jacked up teeth and missing limbs and toes and stuff?
Right.
How do you get to this
Crazy.
point? How do you get there?
Yeah, I don't know how you get there, because let's go on to some of his disciplinary practices first, and then we're going to go into his last surgery that he did.
Oh no.
So,
oh no.
Right. So if you were found to not be holy enough, or if you weren't devoted enough, or if you would try to leave, he had certain disciplinary practices in place to take care of that. And here are some of these examples. Members were forced to break their own legs with sledgehammers.
To break their own legs with sledgehammers?
Yes. Shoot each other in the shoulder. Eat their own and others' feces. Children would be nailed to a tree, and other children would be forced to throw rocks at them.
Wow.
Burn followers by making them sit on lit stoves.
Whoa.
Cut off arms and legs without warning.
Wow.
And sit naked in the cold, and they would be whipped and beat.
I mean, that one almost seems tame after some of these others.
Yeah, like a random, your arm just gets cut off randomly as you're walking.
Did he just like have a sword or something?
What was that?
Did he just have a sword or something?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a drive-by de-arming. I don't know. I'm not sure what it was, but
wow,
horrible.
That is terrible.
So there was a follower, and it was one of his wives. She came up to him and complained of some pain in her stomach. So what this guy did is he forced her to undress and laid her down on a table. And since she had a pain in the stomach, Well, the best thing to do for that is to punch her hard in the stomach. So that's what he did. He hauled off, punched her in the stomach, and then thought, I probably should perform an enema next.
An enema.
So he grabbed a tube, shoved the tube up her rectum, and filled it with olive oil. Of course, why not, right? Olive oil cures everything. After that, he cut her stomach open. Then he ripped out part of her intestines with his bare hands, ripped some of them out and threw them off to the side, called in another member to have them sew her up. Then he grabbed another tube, shoved it down her throat, and had a member breathe into the tube to get oxygen into her body. Well, shockingly, the woman died the next day. And I'm sure that had to be like the worst agonizing death anyone has ever had. Yeah.
It's probably close.
Pretty up there, yeah.
He thought he had the powers of resurrection. So he's thinking he was upset because she died because he thought he healed her. So he had an idea how to resurrect this lady. Well, he drilled a hole in the lady's head. And he had every male member of the group ejaculate into that hole, thinking it was going to resurrect the lady. She remained dead, surprisingly enough.
This guy's he's not just a cult leader. I mean, he's a homicidal maniac. He's a serial killer.
He's a serial killer. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. This sounds like something off of that band Skinned. You're listening to the lyrics of that group?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh my God. It's like these guys are... Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
His son, he tried to circumcise his son and ended up murdering his son because of a failed circumcision.
Man.
How bad of a failed circumcision would that be?
Yeah.
Well, he just ripped out his wife's intestines for stomach pain. So who knows what he did on the circumcision.
Right.
So he had another wife named Gabriel. She ran out to the authorities after seeing some of this, but then came back. She came back thinking that she could not live without this cult.
Wow.
So she came back. The guy used a blowtorch on her genitals. He ripped 8 of her teeth out.
Oh my God.
He broke a hypodermic needle off in her spine. He cut one of her fingers off. He nailed her hand to a table and amputated her entire arm with a hunting knife. He amputated part of her breast. Her head was smashed in with an axe. And after that, she finally left somehow to go call the authorities still.
Wow.
Head was smashed in with an axe and she was able to get to the authorities?
Yeah. Yeah.
With an amputated arm and oh my God, what?
Yeah. I don't know
to the
how.
genitals?
Yeah.
Would you even want to live after all of this stuff happened?
So she did survive.
Yeah. But that just tells you the power this guy had over his people, that if she could escape seeing how some of this stuff happens and then tries to come back because she can't live without the cult and then this stuff happens to her.
Crazy, man.
That's the power that this guy had over all these people.
Oh, wow. I just can't even imagine. I mean, I
can't either.
I can't even mentally figure out how you can go there.
That's like a really bad horror movie. Like
it is. It is
like a Rob Zombie horror movie.
Yeah. Well, in 1989, he was given a life sentence. So he was arrested, found guilty, given a life sentence in 1989. In 2011, his cellmate, he walked up to the guard station, handed the guard a knife and said, "That POS is down on the range. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up." So he was killed in prison and he was 63 years old. I didn't find any information really on the people that survived that.
Mhm.
But again, we were focusing on the cult itself, and
Man,
pretty horrible, gruesome
congratulations, you
stuff.
win, man. My cult's nothing like yours.
Oh no, mine is actually almost one you'd want to join after hearing that.
Holy
Oh,
cow.
That is
Dude,
crazy
That might be
stuff,
the
man.
worst thing I've ever heard in all of the podcasts we've done. I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard. It's really awful.
bad stuff.
Mhm.
Bad stuff.
So, I mean, murder is wrong and all, but kudos to that cellmate
Yeah,
who
man.
seems to have done the world a favor.
Sure did.
Agreed.
Sure did. I don't know why it didn't happen sooner.
Crazy.
But anyway, that's the Ant Hill kids. Bad news.
Yeah. I'm speechless almost.
Yeah, I got nothing, man. I got nothing. So, kids. If somebody approaches you and you see them trying to commit surgery on somebody else with their bare hands, walk away. Walk
Run
away.
away.
They
Run
are
away.
not Jesus. This is not a place that you should stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Anyway, Scott, you're up.
Okay. Well, so mine is actually much more benign than that. It's well, cult is a disputed term by a lot of people. So this group actually had some pretty popular followers, including the likes of Julia Roberts. Does anybody know who Julia Roberts is anymore?
Yeah.
You know, she's
I
a
had a
pretty
poster of
woman.
her up in my room.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought she was hot back in the day.
Well, she was in this cult. So
Hmm.
give props out to Gizmodo, which kind of did a little write up on them. But in the 70s, New York housewife saw visions of Jesus and two Hindu spirit guides. Decided to give herself a new name and start her own religion. She said that these spirit guides had told her to seek always, or actually that Jesus came to her and said, "Teach always, because all ways are mine."
Oh.
So I guess she felt like that, okay, well, Jesus is giving me a mission and I need to go out and find like every religion and kind of set it up and give some people a place to practice this. So she went, found some property down in Florida and purchased it and began recruiting followers. The religion promised kindness and compassion. Of course, ex members said that the leader, who was named Jaya, Ma Jaya, and I guess they just affectionately called her Ma, which I guess if you're going to be a god, you may as well be a kind god like a mother, right?
Mhm.
So Ma, and they accused her of turning herself into a deity, telling followers the guru is greater than God. Now, if you listen to some of these Hindu gurus, and again, I know we have some listeners in India, so maybe somebody out there has some personal experience with this, but a lot of the gurus actually consider themselves to be incarnations of God. So to me, that doesn't sound all that off to say the guru is greater than God. A lot of people follow these gurus because they think that they're incarnations of God, which I guess would even make sense with that creepy cult that you were just talking about, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Right.
really think that this dude is God, then maybe you'd want to follow these crazy things that he was doing. But anyway, so there was an investigation into this group by the Miami New Times. Some dozens of former residents came out and they accused her of psychological control, kidnapping, sexual assault, physical abuse. Again, nothing to the degree of what you were just talking about here, but they molested people by beating him. This is a weird one, by painting his penis black and making him parade around the grounds of the compound.
That was his punishment, huh?
That was his punishment. Yeah, after they molested him and beat him, then they painted his penis black and made him parade around the grounds of the compound.
Was that like a
So
Sharpie, or was it like a paintbrush?
I didn't
Did they
ask.
tell you?
Sharpie.
No.
I
Brian,
didn't ask. That's
Just
a
being detailed
good
on some of this stuff.
good question though.
Mhm.
So Ma seemed to have this obsession with children, and it's speculated that maybe that was because she had had some miscarriages with her second husband. But a lot of people, the former members, have come out and said, "Hey, look, she basically demanded our permission to raise our kids," and some of them were coerced into basically giving their children away to her so that she could raise them as her own. And reportedly, at least four mothers listed Ma or her husband as biological parents on their child's birth certificates.
Jeez.
So, she then took one of her 14-year-old daughters and forced her to marry an adult member of her. They, the article says church, but this is not a church. Whatever this cult is, and then ordered her to have sex with him, and then reportedly checked to see if the girl was pregnant, on an ongoing basis. She died in 2012, but I looked it up, and the cult is still around even today, and it's actually, I mean, if you Google it, it really looks like a very kind and compassionate place. It's very beautiful. The architecture, it sits on a bunch of uh, just really really beautiful areas, and they actually do some nice things. I mean, it's um, they help people with AIDS. They focus on sustainable living and ecoculture. Um, they do some good things. So I guess that's how they get people to join them. And there's more than one of them apparently. The main one was down in Florida, but apparently they have these in other parts of the world, other parts of the country as well. So they, of course, dispute the accusations against them, and they said, well, these were just people who had, some grievances with us, and so they wanted to try to paint us with bad pictures. And so, some of the things they like accused this lady of squandering the money that was given. They had a big AIDS facility that they were building, and it raised like $700,000 for it or something like that. And only about 20,000 of it actually went to the AIDS uh, ministry, if you will. And she reportedly had problems with gambling, and she would go to the casinos and blow up to like $30,000 in one sitting. So again, hard to know what's true and what's
Right.
just somebody making stuff up because they
You
wanted
said they
to win
raised
a
about
court case.
700,000 for this AIDS facility, and only 20,000 actually went to the project.
Yeah, that's what I had
That sounds
read.
about normal for most nonprofits that I've heard of. That's probably about right.
I'm,
The CEO gets
if
the
you
lion's share.
right, and they can pretty much dispose of it however they want. So, to me, this sounds like an awful lot of charities that are out there, churches, some of the big name, the televangelists back in the '80s that were, what was it, Robert Tilton,
Mhm.
that did stuff like that. And so many of these places actually do some good work. They really do reach out and have legitimate ministries, but they have some serious things that go on behind the scenes. Of course, the how many of the televangelists back in the '80s got caught nailing their secretaries or something like that. So a lot of them have their issues, but let's be honest, that's probably everywhere. It's probably everywhere, right? I mean, you look at Fortune 500 companies, how many of them have probably had something like that going on. I don't know that that's necessarily a slam on the charities, but it is. These things are run by people. I think the
Here's the
problem
problem
comes
with
is
it.
when we turn these people into God.
Right. But people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So if you're Ted Haggard and all you do is bash gay people all the time, probably you shouldn't be screwing a gay male prostitute and smoking crack, right? I
Yeah,
know,
one would think that, yes.
Yes.
right? But people tend to criticize things that they're most afraid of and things that they personally have issues with.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Maybe not afraid of, but the things that they actually are doing in order to kinda cause a distraction.
I,
Let's
I think so.
I'm gonna come out vociferously against this thing that I'm doing because I don't want people to know that I'm doing it.
Right. Right. Crazy.
So do these people just have something in their mind that says, hey, because, the way this started, that where this housewife just sees a vision and then she's like, well, shoot, I'm just going to give myself a new name and I'm going to start my own religion. The guy before with the Anthill gang, he just one day he's like, hey, you know what? I got kicked out of church, so I'm going to take these guys with me and I'm going to start my own cult. I mean, your mind has to be thinking that way for quite a while to get to that point, right? You just don't wake up one day and you're like, I'm going to start my own religion,
I
right?
wonder sometimes about stuff like hallucinogenics. Yeah, peyote or didn't you do a podcast on DMT?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
I wonder if some of the things, because she was accused of heavy drug use as well. That was one of the things that I didn't mention a minute ago, but yeah, a lot of the followers said she had a cocaine addict or addiction and other drugs as well. So who knows? Maybe there was something in their past with hallucinogenics. Maybe somebody's experimenting with these things, and with DMT, that you have these spirit guides that come in and tell you all kinds of stuff that you are maybe not prepared to hear, right?
Right.
And maybe one of them tells you that he's Jesus, and you need to go out and start this cult. Um,
It's
and
crazy.
so you do it, right? Because it seems like a real thing, and wow, now you're responsible with some eternal truth that if you don't act on it, then man, who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. I
Hmm.
just
Yeah, that's a good
something
point.
I I try to figure that stuff out too. What gets somebody to that place? How do you
I
decide
think
last 5,000 years or 500 million years or whatever that there was no truth, but it started with you?
there's also the fact that there's, I think, maybe not a huge portion of the population, but there's enough of them out there that um, there are certain people that just need desperately to belong to something, and it's like a big hole. And I think when they meet these cult leaders and they tell them, "Hey, man, I got this wrapped up. I know what I'm doing," and all these people think I do too. You should come join me. Come on in, brother or sister. This is going to be awesome. I got it all figured out. And people gravitate towards that. I mean, if you look at, why do people join outlaw biker gangs? Because they're weak
Hmm.
and they need to belong to something. Uh, why do people join anything like that? Because it's not quite sure of doing it on their own. They don't feel really comfortable, and they need to be led. And somebody's going to step in and fill that role. Hitler
Hmm.
did it in a really big way, and I think these cult leaders do it in a smaller way.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think there's a lot of people out there that just want to be led.
Hmm.
I agree. They want to belong, like you say, they want to belong to something,
Hmm.
be part of a group. Yeah, exactly right.
Hmm.
Crazy. All right, Matt, you got a cult? Do you have a
I
cult,
do.
Matt?
I do. It's an oldie but a goodie. There's two of my favorite cults. The first one, and probably
You have
my
two favorite cults?
I do actually.
Nice.
Uh, the Jonestown cult. I think that story as a child, learning about Jonestown and all the people that died there was really fascinating. I couldn't understand why I still don't understand why whole families would make their children, drink poison Kool-Aid and then kill themselves. And how all that went down was just really fascinating for me because it's so bizarre. But another one that happened in '97 was the Heaven's Gate cult, and that one was really trippy because nobody was coerced or forced to do anything. There were 41 members. And I think after the suicides, there are two other people that called themselves members, but pretty much everybody in the whole cult, except for, I believe, two people, ended up taking their own lives. And willingly, they all made video testimonials to their families saying goodbye. They were all convinced that they were going to be taken up on a spaceship as soon as they died. So this one is really weird, and everybody that was in this particular cult, for the most part, they all lived in one big mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California, and they had a computer consulting business that they funded everything through, which apparently was actually a pretty good business. A lot of high level companies used them, and a lot of celebrities actually employed them to do projects for them and things like that. They built websites and consulted with big companies on computer issues. The company was called Higher Source, and I think their website is actually still up today. You can look it up online, but I'm pretty sure that the Higher Source and the Heaven's Gate websites are still up. They considered themselves an away team, just like Star Trek, from like a mothership. The people that started it, Applewhite and Nettles were their names. And it really started in '74, so it was around for a long time. And Applewhite was convinced that he was just waiting for a sign for them to go back to the stars where they came from originally. He convinced everybody in the cult that this was the case. And they were all bought in, man. It was like a sci-fi movie. And Applewhite and Nettles, who started the cult, were huge sci-fi fans. They were huge into Star Wars. They were huge into Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all Star Trek, anything sci-fi. They were into it, and they kind of styled their cult that way, whereby if you take the phenobarbital and you drink the booze and you kill yourself, your soul is going to leave this earthly vehicle and go up to the stars where there'll be another ship to pick us up and we can all go home. So in '97, the Hale-Bopp comet came around, and that was the sign they were looking for. And they all willingly, they actually sewed their own outfits. They all had black outfits that they made. They went out and bought matching tennis shoes. They had arm patches that said Heaven's Gate away team on them.
Wow.
Like it was a big deal to them, like a big sci-fi movie, man. And they all just happily went to their deaths. They had it all staged out whereby everyone would get laid out on their own bed with a little covering over their face, and then they got down to the last two people, and they took the drugs and the alcohol and tucked themselves in, and that was the end of it. Weird.
I suppose if I was going, I would rather go Heaven's Gate cult than the Anthill way.
Hell yeah. That the Anthill way is just forced coercion almost. I mean, it's I mean that's as bad as it's like a death camp, man.
Forced coercion,
Right.
except when they had an opportunity to leave, they come back.
Yeah.
What do we call that? What's that called? It's a syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome, right?
Stockholm Syndrome, right? But I think it becomes so codependent, and the people are so they rely on that so much that it just becomes a way of life.
It's the only way they know. They probably think it's normal for them.
That's so sad.
Got to get back home where they can cut my arm off. It's so weird, man. But I can see where that could happen. Totally. If somebody just so dominates you all the time, you just become like a whipped dog, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of scary things out there. And these three cults only touched the surface.
Oh, yeah.
We could go on for an entire year talking about cults and what they do and different cults. So this is only the tip of the
It
iceberg.
seems
The cult
to me
bird.
like these things are actually becoming more common rather than less common. Does that seem like that to you guys too? That like in today's day and age that there's more of this kind of stuff? Maybe not quite as
I don't know.
well, as severe maybe as these, but
I think you're right. I think we're desensitized to it more because growing up, I remember like the Moonies,
Oh, yeah.
you remember
oh,
them and the cults back then, like Jones and all that. You think really bad. I mean, it's horrible,
uh-huh.
horrible. But if you think of cults nowadays, maybe some people like
What's the one? L. Ron Hubbard.
Scientology,
Yeah, Scientology.
you
We got
know,
to be really careful about talking about them, by the way. They just sue everybody that mentions them. So,
we just did.
like literally, they
Yeah.
just like, yeah.
What other people consider cults are less, well, they're more mainstream now.
I guess it would kind of come down to the old question, what is truth? And so if truth is subjective, then who's to say that some of these people aren't, or maybe they are incarnations of deity? Because if you got no objective truth, what's the definition of cult? It's like stuff that's out of the mainstream, right? Well, what's mainstream today?
Jeez. I don't know.
I mean,
What is mainstream?
I never would have thought
I don't know.
5 or 10 or 20 years ago, I never would have thought that there would be any question, that there was a difference between gender and sex. But it's a mainstream thing right now. So
Oh,
like
yeah, man.
if something that seemingly that basic is debated, uh, what is truth? And so I think a lot of these cults maybe are just kind of just somebody's mainstream view. It's mainstream to them because
Right.
they don't accept any mainstream actual hard truth anymore. So what's a cult?
That's a good
I don't know.
question.
It is.
That's a good question. Who knows? Who knows?
But I like that song. Cult
It
of
is a good song,
Personality.
Brian. You need to get with it on that one.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What was the
Sing
name
it,
of that
Scott.
group
Living Color.
that sang
That's
that?
Living Color.
Oh yeah, Living
They were
Color.
the inspiration behind Seven Dust, which is also
Now Seven Dust, I
Were they
like.
really?
yeah. If you look at the lead singer of Seven Dust, he lists Living Color as one of his main inspirations, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, they're better than Living Color.
I mean,
Just saying.
no disciple is better than the guru, right?
Except in that case.
Seven Dust pretty kick-ass band, though. I mean, I got to give it to him on that. But Living Color
Yeah,
definitely
they
set the stage for him.
are. All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up.
That's it, gang. Thanks everybody for listening this week. Welcome to all our new listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. Send us an email as to where you're listening from so we can give you a shout out. Go to ourdifferenttake.com and our Facebook group page called ODT Nation. Please send us your comments, questions, complaints, or suggestions to show@ourdifferenttake.com. We're going to use some of this time to thank new members of our Facebook group, ODT Nation, for joining. We're over 200 strong, and our goal is to get to 400 by March. Welcome to our newest members, Phil, Luke, and Jim. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Look for us wherever you get your podcasts from. We also have a YouTube channel called Our Different Take. Please subscribe and click on the bell so you'll be alerted when a new podcast is released.
Peace.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Hey y'all, this is Cowboy Sean from Scaredy Cat Paranormal. Why don't you guys hop over to my page on Instagram, Ghost Cowboy 248, Facebook, Scaredy Cat Paranormal, and my YouTube page with the same name, Scaredy Cat Paranormal Investigations. If you guys like the paranormal, ghost, things go bump at night, the abandoned, then my place is the place to go. Thank you.
Let's get going.
Remember that song? She got skills.
Yeah, no.
So when do I get to sing that song? Yum, yum, eat 'em up. I think I'm in love. She got skills. Remember that song? You don't remember that?
I'm sure surprised I don't remember that.
I want to drink tonight.
What? You gotta go take a dump? Nice.
You're welcome.